From the New Jersey chef who jumped off the bridge.
Yeah, I think that's pushing it. Your business is about to fucking swim down the Hudson.
To the restaurant owner whose cancer battle ended just years after his TV makeover.
Actually, that's a recipe of my own. I made it myself. I was very disappointed that it wasn't presented.
These are the Kitchen Nightmares cast members whose real stories ended in tragedy. Starting with a talented chef whose fairy tale turnaround became one of reality TV's most heartbreaking cautionary tales. Joseph Cerniglia's story started like every restaurant owner's dream. Back in 2007, he owned Campagna, a cozy Italian restaurant in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. But when Gordon Ramsay walked through those doors, Joe was drowning in debt, over $80,000 worth.
Mr. Ramsay, how are you, man? I'm Joe Cerniclia.
Good to see you.
Welcome to New Jersey.
Joe was 39 years old and facing what seemed like impossible financial pressure. The debt was overwhelming him, and his restaurant was struggling to stay afloat. During filming, Ramsay famously told Joe that his business was about to swim down the Hudson, words that would later take on a chilling meaning.
You think you could continue like this for what, 6 more months?
About that.
Yeah, I think that's pushing it. Your business is about to fucking swim down the Hudson.
After Kitchen Nightmares aired, things actually looked up for Campagna. Customers started coming back. The restaurant was getting busy again. Joe even won a local cooking competition in 2008, proving he had real talent in the kitchen. But behind the scenes, Joe was fighting battles nobody knew about. In the summer of 2010, just 3 years after his Kitchen Nightmares appearance, Joe was found by police after a cocaine overdose. He was shaking, sweating, and needed immediate medical help. This wasn't the same confident chef that viewers remembered from TV. After a few months, Joe made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He sold Campagna to a company called Campagna Holding Corp. And 8 days later, on September 24, 2010, Joe drove to the George Washington Bridge. Authorities received a 911 call that afternoon about someone who had jumped from the bridge. Joe's body was found in the Hudson River. He was just 39 years old. The medical examiner ruled it was a suicide. The same river that Gordon Ramsay had mentioned during filming, where Joe's business was supposedly going to swim down, became the place where Joe's story ended. It was a tragic irony that nobody could have predicted. But Joe's tragedy wasn't the only Kitchen Nightmares loss. Next is a beloved server whose bright spirit couldn't shield her from a hidden health condition. At Charlie's Italian Bistro in La Verne, California, most of the staff were scared to speak honestly when Gordon Ramsay arrived. They knew their boss, Tatiana, wanted them to be careful with their words around the famous chef. But Genevieve Gutierrez wasn't like the other servers.
Here's some water for you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Genevieve and I'm going to be your server. Can I get you started with anything?
Let's go.
When Gordon sat down to try the food, Genevieve didn't hold back. She told him exactly what she thought about the dishes, even when her co-workers tried to shush her. When Gordon asked about the lasagna, she warned him that it wasn't typical. It was different, and not necessarily in a good way. Her honesty was refreshing. While other staff members walked on eggshells, Genevieve spoke her mind. She complained about the chef sending out bad food for weeks, wondering why management wasn't doing anything about it. Her direct approach made her stand out during the episode.
I never have recommended the ravioli.
I mean, they're raw.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like that. They're either really raw or they're just like cardboard. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
But Genevieve wasn't just a server. At 21 years old, she had big dreams. She loved music and performed rock songs on stage whenever she got the chance. She was full of energy and wasn't afraid to be herself, even when cameras were rolling. Tragically, Genevieve's vibrant personality couldn't protect her from a serious health condition she'd been dealing with her whole life. She had epilepsy, a condition that can cause sudden seizures and other complications. Not long after her Kitchen Nightmares appearance, Genevieve passed away from complications related to her epilepsy. She was still just 21 years old, with her whole life ahead of her. While Genevieve's passing was from a medical condition, the next story is about a restaurant owner whose death followed years of inner struggle. When Gordon Ramsay walked into Burger Kitchen in Los Angeles, he found one of the most dysfunctional family situations he'd ever encountered. At the center of it all was Alan Saffron, a man whose life story read like something out of a crime novel.
Nice. Hello.
Morning.
How are you?
Alan Saffron, how are you?
Alan, good to see you.
Thank you very much for
this
coming.
is-
This is my wife, Jan. Jay.
Jane, good to see you.
When Chef Ramsey arrived, it just blew my mind.
Alan was fighting with his son Daniel over money, specifically $250,000 that Alan had taken from Daniel's inheritance to fund the restaurant. Daniel was furious, working in his father's kitchen while resenting every minute of it. Alan couldn't understand why his son was so angry with him. The restaurant itself was a disaster. In just 16 months, Alan had changed the menu 10 times and gone through more than 20 different servers and chefs. When Gordon arrived, he was shocked to learn that the current executive chef was named David Blaine, not the famous magician, just someone who happened to have the same name.
Is the business making money?
No, we're losing $5,000 up to $6,000 a month every month.
Wow. How can it go so wrong?
But Alan's family history was even more complicated than his restaurant problems. His father was Abe Saffron, one of Australia's most notorious crime bosses. Abe was known as Mr. Sin and controlled much of Sydney's underworld for decades. When Abe died in 2006, he left a massive inheritance to both Alan and his grandson Daniel. That inheritance money, the same money that Daniel accused his father of stealing, became the source of bitter family conflict that played out on national television. Before getting into the restaurant business, Alan had actually been successful in Hollywood. He managed actors and even co-produced films with major stars like Robert Downey Jr. But the restaurant world was different, and Alan struggled to make Burger Kitchen work despite his business experience. Even after Gordon's intervention, the family problems were too deep to fix. The restaurant eventually closed, and the family relationships remained strained. Alan continued dealing with health problems as he got older. In 2020, at age 71, he suffered a heart attack and passed away. His death marked the end of a complicated life that had been shaped by family trauma, criminal connections, and the impossible task of trying to build something legitimate while carrying the weight of his father's dark legacy. But while some Kitchen Nightmare stars battled personal demons, others fell to the sheer pressure of running a restaurant. Our next story reveals how even seasoned chefs can lose their way. At the Seascape Inn in Islip, New York, Gordon Ramsay met one of the most stubborn chefs he'd ever encountered. Doug had impressive credentials. He was a graduate of the prestigious Culinary Institute of America and claimed to have worked in famous restaurants for 38 years. But somewhere along the way, Doug had lost his passion for cooking. When Gordon arrived at the waterfront restaurant, he found problems that went way beyond just bad food. Fish was being stored in empty dog food bags in the walk-in cooler. Meals were being heated up in the microwave instead of being cooked fresh. Most shocking of all, Gordon found a piece of spoiled pork that Doug insisted on keeping, claiming he was going to eat it himself. When Gordon tried to show Doug how to properly prepare a dish, cooking a perfect piece of sea bass as a demonstration, Doug did something that had never happened before in Gordon's 21-year career. He flat out refused to taste it.
If you are a chef of 38 years experience, just tell me why you didn't want to taste that.
I know what striped bass tastes like, and I'm familiar with this.
Gordon was stunned. Here was a chef who wouldn't even try a properly cooked piece of fish. Doug just said he knew what sea bass tasted like and didn't need to taste Gordon's version. It was a level of stubborn pride that even Gordon couldn't break through. The episode made Doug look like he'd completely given up on cooking. But away from the cameras, Doug was a completely different person. He loved the outdoors, enjoyed hunting wild boar, and was passionate about fishing. He lived life fully outside of that troubled kitchen.
Your head chef, he's lazy, dirty, and he shouldn't be anywhere near a kitchen. He's destroying your business quicker than you can fucking realize.
Doug passed away in 2010 at just 54 years old. While Kitchen Nightmares caught him during what was clearly the worst period of his professional life, his obituary painted a picture of someone who found joy and purpose away from the restaurant world. Our next case involves a family whose American dream became a generational nightmare. Vincenzo and Inge Cristiano came to America with nothing but hope and determination. He arrived from Italy, while she was a World War II survivor from Germany. Together, they had a simple dream to build something lasting for their family. In 1958, they opened Nino's Italian restaurant in Long Beach, California. For decades, it was exactly what they'd hoped for, a successful business that served the community and provided for their children. But when Gordon Ramsay visited in 2012, the restaurant was in trouble. Vincenzo had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and had to step away from the business. Without his leadership, things started falling apart under the management of his wife Inge and their eldest son Nino.
To my husband Vincenzo that I would keep this restaurant going, but some night you have 10, 12 people coming, that doesn't do it. The last thing I want to do is close the doors.
The episode became memorable for several moments, including Nino's passionate defense of his work ethic. He showed Gordon photos of himself cleaning the restaurant, insisting that he worked hard every day. His brother Michael's impression of Nino's customer service style also became one of the show's most quoted scenes. Gordon tried to modernize the restaurant, updating both the menu and the decor. But Nino eventually went back to the old ways, explaining that their regular customers preferred the familiar food and atmosphere they'd always known.
It was just very confusing. You know, it's new look, new menu. You know, we'll see what our regular customers think too. But I can't speak for them.
Sure.
Behind the Kitchen Nightmares drama was a remarkable immigrant success story. Vincenzo had arrived in America with practically nothing, but his entrepreneurial spirit helped shape Long Beach itself. He successfully fought City Hall to allow outdoor dining, pioneering the restaurant patios that are common today. Vincenzo passed away in 2014 at age 90. 2 years later, after celebrating their 58th wedding anniversary, the family decided to close Nino's. Without Vincenzo, it just wasn't the same anymore. Inge's own story was equally remarkable. Born in Germany in 1934, she had survived World War II as a child, watching bombs fall from the sky before being evacuated to safety. After immigrating to America, she helped build the restaurant business and even survived breast cancer twice. In 2021, Inge passed away, ending her incredible journey from war-torn Germany to a successful American businesswoman. The Long Beach City Council honored her contributions by closing in her memory. While the Cristianos lived full lives before passing away, our next story involves a restaurant owner whose struggles were visible to everyone around her. La Gondola restaurant in Derby, England, used to be the place to be. When it opened in 1968, it was a fancy Venetian-style establishment that attracted crowds for decades. But by the time Gordon Ramsay arrived in 2006, it was like stepping back in time, and not in a good way. Daniela Bayfield was trying desperately to keep her dream investment alive. The restaurant meant everything to her. She'd celebrated her 21st birthday there, and even had her wedding reception in its elegant dining rooms. When the opportunity came up to buy it, she used £500,000 from her divorce settlement to purchase the entire operation. A 125-seat restaurant plus a 21-bedroom hotel. But the place that used to be packed was now struggling to get bookings, even on weekends. What should have been the busiest nights were often nearly empty. Gordon did his best to help during the episode. The renovation brought new energy to the space, and for a brief moment it looked like the La Gondola might recapture its former glory. But the boost from Kitchen Nightmares didn't last, and the restaurant closed in 2009.
But can they really build on the momentum when I'm not there to hold their hands?
Boiling water.
Danny, the apprentice, does have the makings of a good chef.
You've seen.
After the venue shut down, the beautiful building sat empty for years. Homeless people began using it as an unofficial shelter, which gave Daniela an idea. Why not turn it into a proper refugee shelter? This wasn't just a business decision for Daniela. It was personal. She had been born in a Polish refugee camp near Cambridge. Her mother was Italian and her father was Polish, both refugees who had come to the UK after World War II. Helping other refugees would have been a way to honor her own family's story. However, the building had been vandalized so badly during its empty years that it wasn't safe to renovate anymore. Daniela's plan to help refugees never became reality. Daniela passed away peacefully in her sleep in July 2019 at age 72. She had spent years trying to save a piece of Derby's history, then hoping to use that same building to help people in need. The building that had hosted so many special moments in Derby sold for £745,000 in 2020. But it was too damaged to restore. After years of planning applications and delays, they finally got approval to demolish it and build apartments. While Daniela fought to save a building with historical significance, our next story involves a man who was trying to save his family's future. When Billy Leroy bought the Handlebar restaurant in Mount Sinai, New York, he had no restaurant experience whatsoever. He was a former construction worker who had taken a huge gamble, and as his business failed, he and his wife Caroline faced the very real threat of losing their home.
I'm a little nervous to meet Chef Ramsey.
I'm Carolyn.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
The restaurant had a dated 1980s look that made it feel stuck in the past. Billy had purchased it just a year before Gordon Ramsay arrived, but his lack of restaurant knowledge led to poor decisions that kept customers away. Gordon's transformation of the handlebar became one of Kitchen Nightmare's most dramatic makeovers. Ramsay's team turned it into Long Island's first gastro pub, completely modernizing the space and celebrating the rebirth with an unforgettable motorcycle rally.
The new menu, I think, is phenomenal. He consolidated it down to a lot of the comfort food type favorites, just served in a different light.
Melissa, this is the night that we make the statement.
The grand opening was unlike anything Kitchen Nightmares had done before. Twisted Sister's lead singer Dee Snider joined the celebration, riding motorcycles with both Billy and Gordon Ramsay. WWE legend Mike Foley also made a special appearance, adding to the memorable moments. Billy was thrilled by the experience. He said he never imagined that he would get to ride motorcycles with both Gordon Ramsay and a rock star. For someone who had been facing the loss of his home just weeks earlier, it must have felt like a miracle. The renovation and publicity gave the handlebar new life. Billy seemed to have learned from Gordon's guidance, and the restaurant started attracting the customers it needed to survive.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, this menu has to come down, yes? That has to be condensed.
It'd be appreciated.
New, small, dynamic menu. A menu that we can push out.
But Billy's personal battle was just beginning. In November 2015, just a few years after his Kitchen Nightmare success, Billy lost his fight with cancer. Those who knew him remembered Billy as a genuinely nice man whose warmth and kindness toward his staff set him apart in the restaurant industry. While his time on Kitchen Nightmares had shown his struggles as a restaurant owner, it also revealed his character. Someone who faced challenges with dignity and treated others well, even during the most difficult times. Speaking of battles that reality TV couldn't solve, our next story takes us to a restaurant where family conflict destroyed everything. The Grasshopper also was supposed to be a family success story. Located in Carlstadt, New Jersey, it was part of a successful chain of Irish pubs, and Chief had invested $3 million into making it work. Edward Chief Fitzpatrick was a man who had built his American dream from nothing. He came to America from Ireland in 1956 with little more than determination and a strong work ethic. By 1983, he had opened his first Grasshopper pub in Cedar Cove, New Jersey, which grew into a successful chain of 5 locations.
Hello.
Hi, Chef Ramsay. I'm Maureen Sandler. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, good to see you too.
Okay, this is my dad, Eddie.
Eddie Fitzpatrick.
But the Grasshopper also became tangled in a web of family tension that poisoned everything. Chief, with his 4 decades of restaurant experience, watched in growing frustration as his son-in-law Mitch retreated to his office instead of managing the kitchen properly. Chief's daughter Maureen was caught in the middle, exhausted from constantly trying to mediate between her father and her husband. The dysfunction had infected the entire operation, with Chief blaming Mitch's incompetence, while Mitch argued that his father-in-law's constant interference was the real problem.
Business has changed drastically, and my father has to blame somebody, and he blames my husband.
Where does your allegiance lie?
With my husband, you know? I support him.
When Gordon Ramsay arrived, their conflicts had made it impossible to run the restaurant effectively. Gordon tried the food and was particularly disappointed with their shepherd's pie, joking that if they served it like that in Dublin, they would be in serious trouble. Despite being part of a successful pub chain and despite Gordon's intervention, the family couldn't heal their deep rifts. The Grasshopper also closed its doors in October 2012, unable to survive the weight of its internal conflicts. Chief passed away in February 2020, but his legacy was much larger than one failed restaurant. His other Grasshopper establishments had become gathering places where both Irish immigrants and Americans of all backgrounds could experience authentic Irish hospitality. While Chief's story was about family conflict, our final story is about a mother whose love for her son couldn't save her restaurant or her life. In Montclair, New Jersey, Leon's restaurant and pizzeria was Rosemary Leon's life's work. Known affectionately as Mother Rose, she was a seasoned restaurant owner with over 3 decades of experience.
People will wait in line to come in. I was here 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 at night. I did everything. Cooking, cleaning, the inventory.
Before Leon's, Rose had already found success with another venture called Mexicale Rose, also in Montclair. She knew the restaurant business inside and out, and Leon's had been her pride and joy for 14 years. Then, in 2008, life took an unexpected and devastating turn. Rose fell into a coma following complications from what should have been a routine kidney stone operation. While she was unconscious and fighting for her life, her son Michael stepped forward to manage the business.
Michael's not taking care of this restaurant, so basically I do everything. I do ordering, I coordinate staff. You're supposed to make it the way the menu states.
But Michael had no restaurant experience. Without his mother's guidance and expertise, the establishment began to decline rapidly. By the time Rose finally returned to consciousness and made it back to her restaurant, she found it unrecognizable. Her life's work was slipping away. The restaurant was losing $4,000 per week, and debts were mounting quickly. Rose's call to Gordon Ramsay was a mother's desperate plea for help in teaching her son the skills he needed to succeed.
Oh my God, is that a baby?
Yes.
I mean, they say that there's never an ugly baby. I think I just found one. But that's not you, is it?
No, sir. We have one of the worst decors I've ever seen.
During the episode, Gordon could see how much the restaurant meant to Rose, but he was also concerned about her health. He didn't want her pushing herself too hard and risking another medical emergency. Through Gordon's guidance, Leon's was transformed into a modern Italian bistro. More importantly, Michael grew tremendously in his role. By the episode's end, Gordon felt confident that Michael had learned enough to carry forward his mother's legacy successfully. The transformation worked.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Look after your son.
I will.
Let him spoil you now.
Yes, I need it.
You need to sit and relax and go around the corner for a little game of bingo.
Leon's became one of Kitchen Nightmare's lasting success stories, continuing to serve the Montclair community with Michael at the helm. Tragically, in April 2014, Rose passed away at age 64. She had touched countless lives throughout New Jersey and beyond, building a devoted following through her warm presence and dedication to her craft. Today, Leon still operates under Michael's leadership, and he regularly shares tributes to the woman who built not just a restaurant, but a lasting legacy in New Jersey's culinary landscape.